Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for joining. I am your host, Mark, and just to remind you that the views tonight are that of my own and not that of my employer. So unfortunately, it's just myself tonight and these amazing guests. Adam, unfortunately, has COVID, although he is with us. He is just behind the scenes doing the tech and bits and pieces. So if any of that goes wrong, that is not my fault tonight. Somewhere on your screen, probably on the top right or the bottom left, you'll see a subscribe button. Not you, Ian, don't worry, not on your screen, just on everybody else's. So please do hit subscribe and stay up to date with all the new episodes and bits and pieces. So tonight, I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Rosie Mead and Big Ian to discuss music and dementia. Good evening, both of you. How are you?
Evening. Hi, Mark. Good, thanks.
Thank you very much for joining. So let's do some introductions. Rosie, we'll come to you first.
Okay, so I am Dr. Rosie Mead. So I run a not-for-profit called Musica. I've been running that for about 13 years. And the aim is to support care partners to embed meaningful music into dementia care. And that's really kind of, been my life for the last 13, 14 years.
Well, a good part of the life to have, I think. So I can't wait to touch more on kind of personalization of music and bits and pieces. Ian, good evening.
Right. Good evening to you as well, Mark. My name's Big Ian, and my name's Ian Donaghy, but everybody gets the second bit wrong, so I keep it simple. I'm a dementia campaigner. I've trained up care staff. I was a teacher for 20 years. I've been a professional musician since I was 19, filling theatres. And now I do a lot of stuff to help people who are living with dementia and with learning disabilities and bring music to their lives and see the difference it makes. And it makes a huge difference. So we do an event called the Night to Remember in York, which is one of the UK's biggest dementia awareness raises at York Barbican that we do every year. On the stage, we bring all generations together, people with dementia, people with learning disabilities, people who just love music, because last time I checked, it's for everyone.
Absolutely, well said. No, music is for everybody. So before I come on to questions, we've got a video that we're going to watch first. So if I wave my magic wand, it should play, hopefully.
Ella Fitzgerald's my favourite woman. Yeah.
Let there be you. Let there be me. Let there be oysters under the sea. Let there be wind, occasional rain, chili con carne, sparkling champagne. Let there be cuckoos, a lark and a dove, but first of all, please let there be love.
You stay in my winery.
You're not ready for this one, I'll tell you. Right? Listen to this. See, how good does House of Pain? Oh, it's a tune, isn't it?
That way. That's it.
Pat, how does this make you feel? Oh, come on! What a tune! Jump around. Right. I like it. Double clap. See, Pat, you don't need Nat King Cole. How good's this? It's great, isn't it? Right, clap and tell me.
What the heck?
Is that too much for you, Pat? Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday.
I loved that video, Ian. I imagine that must bring back some great memories.
Fantastic, fantastic. And you know what? It just goes to show everybody. It's like the whole thing with films. People, you know, there must be people in care homes thinking, "My Fair Lady again, The Sound of Music again." Do you know what? Stick on The Greatest Showman. Stick on Frozen. Stick on these. Do you know a good musical? It's a good musical. Good music is good music. And like the thing is, there are kids that, like, you know, we do gigs for like 21st birthday parties, and everybody's dancing to "Don't You Want Me" by the Human League. And they're singing at the top of their voices "Gold" by Spandau Ballet because, you know, they've just had it all, you know, drubbed into them by their parents. And I just think we need to stop thinking that everybody needs to be singing, you know, within the mood and violin and all this sort of stuff. Because, you know, if someone's born in 1940, right, that means they got rock and roll when they were 17. They got the Beatles at 22. They got the Who. They got the Stones at 23. The Who at 25. Elton John and Rod Stewart at 30. And they got punk and disco in 36. We need to be realizing that we need a bit more "Come On Eileen" and "Come On Feel the Noise" and a bit less, you know, "The White Cliffs of Dover."
Yes.
Seriously, I was in with a bloke called Ezra, an absolute fantastic guy. And he just, the first thing he said to me, before he even said hello, he says, "Bah, there isn't a Rolling in the Deep on that new Adele album, is there?" And I just went, "I don't know, Ezra, you're 98 or something." And he went, "Nah, there's not a Chasing Pavements on that one, lad." And I just went, he went, I think she's lost. I think she's made too much money and she's just lost her way." And there he was. And he was going through track by track this new Adele album. And he actually said, "I think she's got her own way on this album. Nobody's told her no." And there you go, 96. And that's what we need to be doing. We need to be talking to people, because if we only look on old music, well, that means there'll be no new music, doesn't it? How frightening would that be? A world with no new music, where all we do is listen to old things? Nah. So, yes, as you can see, Uptown Funk, they love that. And House of Pain, who don't look Mark? With a couple of scoops inside you, I'll be honest, you're a great dancer to House of Pain, you know. And I just think, I think Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit was possibly a bit too far. But they were still traveling along though, you know. And so it was great. So we just had a lot of fun.
Yeah,
that's what it's all about, isn't it? Having fun.
Sorry, Mark.
No, go on, Rosie.
Where people can say, you know, actually, I don't like this piece. So, you know, that was, I can't remember the lady's name, but, you know, actually that was a bit too much for me.
Yeah.
Like, have these conversations so we can say, you know, actually, is this a bit of a Marmite song? Some people will love it, some people won't. And that's all right. We don't have the same musical taste.
You know, and another thing, it just gives you an opportunity to start a conversation. So whether you love something, and you love it, why do you love it? I love it because of this. Why do you love it? I love it because of this. And, well, I hate it because of this. And that's fine. Like, it's always good to, everyone thinks we need to, you know, have everything in common. Well, if we had everything in common, what a boring world. You know,
no,
yes,
absolutely.
I agree. Yes, can you imagine being around people who just say to you all every day, "Mark, that's brilliant. Yes, I agree. You are a genius." That'd be terrible. So I think it's great that we start a conversation, whether it's because you love it or you hate it, or even if it just sparks a conversation. I think a lot of music, you know, imagine if someone just thought what the music that you made was all right. Wouldn't that be gutting? Nobody writes a song for someone to say, "Oh, it's quite good, that. Yeah, it's all right." You know, you'd want them to love it or hate it.
No, absolutely. Which brings us nicely on to kind of the first question tonight, which is why music is so important and beneficial for people with dementia. And I think we've kind of touched on it, that it sparks conversations, it gets us to know about people, their likes, their dislikes, it brings back some memories. Rosie, I'll come to you first. Why do you feel it's really important for people?
Yeah, so a big part of my own research was looking at like the relational aspect of dementia care and how, so it's exactly what we just saw in the video, is how music can bring people together. You know, actually seeing the video reminded me of the research I did was in a hospital environment. And the most kind of beneficial communication that we had, where the music worked really well, was at a kind of a dining table like that, where it was in the middle of the corridor and it had like a lovely like tablecloth on it. People would come and sit around it, but I'd view them kind of every day sitting around it, but not really having anything to talk about. And then when the musician came in, and she'd often kind of wander around the corridors, people would then come and congregate at that table, but then would have the conversation of the music that they'd just been hearing, the memories that they'd associated with the pieces that they were hearing. And that conversation then would continue, you know, long after the music had ended. And the staff would get to know more about that individual as well. I think that's really key. Is kind of one of the benefits out of so many is that connection that you get through being in a musical space together.
No, absolutely. And I remember, you know, like sitting around the table in the dining room, just putting a piece of music on and watching how it brings people alive. And actually it can change somebody's demeanor and kind of how they're feeling in bits and pieces. And I half expected the people in the video we just watched to kind of pick up their spoon and start like tapping along on the plate or the teapot in the middle. And yeah, it just brought back some really good memories of kind of life in the care home. And I think quite often we don't kind of see that kind of thing. So I think it's great to actually have that visual that we can share. So thank you, Ian. Ian, so you've obviously done a lot of work around people with dementia, but those obviously with a learning disability. Why is music important and beneficial to everyone?
Because we give a huge amount of our memories to music. We use so much of this for music. See, if you think how many English lessons you went to and how many lessons you did for poetry and stuff like that across your school career, and I was to ask you, how much of that do you know now? How much of that have you retained? Now, if you think of that vast amount of time, how many lessons you sat in with those books, you know, and reading and all this. See, I'd say that it's a little bit funny, this feeling inside. I'm not one of those who can easily hide. And now the thing is, I don't remember any poetry from school. But you can sing me any song from me being about 6 to me being 20 odd, and I'm pretty good on it. And not only do I know the words on a piece of paper and could write them down, right? I know every word has about 4 or 5 different pieces of information. Because if you go, it's a little bit funny, this feeling inside. But if you go, it's a little bit funny, this feeling inside. Now there, every word has a place in the bar. Every word has a note. Every word has a velocity, right? Whether it attacks or whether it's gentle or whether it fades off or whether it does this. And we all know. And then in our heads, we also know that the piano goes bam, ba, dun, 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 dun. We know the piano part. If it came on, we'd name that tune in one. And that's one Elton John song. If we put on Candle in the Wind, we know the words, right? We know the words to I'm Still Standing. We know the words to all these things. And we know the words to just to thousands and thousands. If we were to actually scare through our heads and say, right, imagine there's no heaven. Right, write the rest down. Boom, 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 boom. And you just think, hold on, I know that. You know, when I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Get in. We all know it. How much do we know in here? And they're like jingles. Jingles were designed by advertisers to get in here and never leave. Now, when your mum or your dad or your nanny used to say, oh, this is catchy. Catchy means you've been caught. And they want to keep you caught. And that's why there'll be a song that comes on and go, oh, I like that one. You might not know who it's by. Now, my mother-in-law, Liz, who you're going to see a bit later on, who passed away 3 years ago, she didn't know who the songs were by. She'd always say when we were out, and this was really funny, she went, oh, I like this one. I want this for my funeral. And I said, Liz, if we do all these songs, your funeral's going to be like Live Aid with a box. Right? I said, we can't have them all. She went, oh, but I like this one. So, and she didn't know what the songs were. But we used to take her out, and I used to stick Spotify on, right? And she'd suddenly light up. Otherwise, she wouldn't. She'd light up. And so we'd be going around, and then she'd just go. Now, one of the most complicated songs lyrically you'll come across, lyrically, rhythmically, is Paul Simon's 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. In the last year of her life on the planet, she knew all the words to 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. And it was amazing. Absolutely incredible. So she was there, switched on, and hop on the bus, goes, don't need to discuss much. And so music just taps in there, and it finds the bits that we really cared so much about, that we remembered it in minute detail. And there's not much in our lives that we remember in minute detail. And let me even ask you this. Think of past relationships you've had with people who you loved, right? Former girlfriends, former boyfriends, whatever it is, yeah? And then just think to yourself, what do I really remember about that relationship? And can I be honest? You tend not to remember too much. Once you've moved on, you think, can I be honest? I can remember what they look like. I can remember what they maybe smelt like, what sort of fragrance they was, but you don't remember too much. Whereas pop songs and hymns and stuff like that, could be anything. They have a special place, and we lock them away. And I think we maybe lock them away in a special place that we need them when we can't find other things. And that is why it's so important. We've put them in a special place where we might need to find them when we can't find anything else later.
No, thank you very much. And I think I'm a bit like your mother-in-law. Is I can't remember who the artist is, but straight away remember who the song is. And you spoke about Spotify, which kind of brings me nicely on to the next question that we had, which was around kind of technology and how that's changing our approach to people and music and bits and pieces. So Rosie, I'll come to you first. Kind of what have you seen kind of obviously in your own line of work around technology? How's that influencing and changing things?
Yeah, so I think if we can start to embrace technology, it really, like things like Spotify are absolutely amazing for like I was saying about kind of that meaningful music. Often I say about like being a bit of a detective when you're discovering like what music is meaningful to an individual and creating playlists. But sometimes, like you say, Mark, if someone asked you, well, what's your favorite song or who are your favorite artists? For all of us, sometimes, maybe not for Big Ian. I think you could tell us for like hours, you could tell us. But for some of us, our mind just goes blank anyway. Actually, I can't think. So if you can use Spotify as that, there's the option to go on like song radio, artist radio. I don't know about you, but I use that all the time myself. And so actually supporting the individuals that we're caring for to actually let's sit down and have a conversation together. Let's talk about your life history, the where you grew up, where you worked, whatever it is, and bring music into that conversation by, okay, you've just mentioned this, should we pop on Spotify or whatever you're using, and actually let's look at the artist radio. And you can kind of go down like a rabbit warren of like, oh God, do you remember that song? Oh yeah, and then you listen to that one and another one pops up. But like we're saying, it's not always just kind of recent music either. It's then new music will pop up. So there'll be new music that's maybe a similar style that you're like, oh, I've never heard that before. But you know what? I really love that. And then we can still create new memories, the here and now, creating new memories of what am I doing right now while I'm listening to this piece? Okay, when I next listen to that piece, you might not remember the exact details, but those emotions that you've had while you've listened to that piece, they'll still come back as well. So I think, yes, there can be barriers with technology in terms of user friendliness, Wi-Fi in some settings, isn't great. But I think there can be a lot of good for using technology.
Absolutely. And I kind of think back to kind of when we very first we used Amazon Music in the care home, and just using the shuffle option and actually just seeing what came on, and the staff had kind of made playlists. We had a tablet that was in the hallway, and they just kind of would walk past, add a song to the playlist, and it just would make the kind of the shuffle so much broader because there were so many different generations that were working in that care home, and then the people we were supporting would add their own songs. But things that would come on like reggae that none of us would really think about, but actually then you would look over and somebody who is normally disengaged or whatever would then just come alive, and actually how that would then change kind of the support and how we would then, how we'd work with that person to actually, we know that actually if they're disengaged, actually let's put a bit of reggae on because it's going to get them up and it'll get them moving and dancing and change kind of their mindset and move them on. And yeah, it's amazing kind of for me what something as simple as kind of Spotify, Amazon Music could do. Ian, you obviously got your own YouTube show as well. Kind of, what are you doing around tech and music?
Well, tech. Well, put it this way. Here you go. There you go. Spotify. It's everywhere. I've got so many things on here you don't know. When my mother-in-law was really towards the end of a journey, what we did was we looked at various points of her life when she was training to be a nurse. And then we put loads of Brian Ferry on, and we stuck like, you know, when she had dementia, we were front row at York Barbican watching Brian Ferry while she was up in the air, up, you know, hands in the air, singing "Love Is the Drug." And I'm just, and the number of times we'd go out, and she'd go quiet, and then I'd go, "I didn't mean to hurt you," and then she'd suddenly join in. And then when she was even when she was dying, she was there in the bed, not much going on, and then she'd just go, "I'm just a jealous guy," and it would just, you'd go, if Brian Ferry knew, actually not Brian Ferry, John Lennon knew, because John Lennon wrote "Jealous Guy." So what we had a playlist, and it was for all the care team as well, because it was a soundtrack. So they had a room set up with all pictures of things that she loved. And chocolate everywhere. She couldn't eat at the time, but everywhere smelled of chocolate because she adored chocolate. She'd kill you for chocolate. And everywhere smelled of chocolate, and everyone could have chocolate, and it was a lovely thing. At a funeral, everybody was given a bar of fruit and nut and some bird seed to feed the birds outside. It was lovely. And so we had all parts of her life, when she lived in Middlesbrough, when she was training to be a nurse, when she first got married, when she had the kids, when she was a little bit older. So we would have some Carole King. And what was really lovely was, because this was playing all the time as a beautiful soundtrack, all the young carers, and some of them were like 17, 18, they would come in, and they'd come in on their days off to see Liz. They'd come in on their days. Oh, I was passing, I just wanted to see how Liz was. So they'd come in, and here's 17-year-olds singing Carole King, "So Far Away." And when you hear all the care staff and everybody in the room and whistling in the corridors, and they go, and you just think, that's lovely. And my kids were only little, right? My kids were little, and they were all cooking in the kitchen with Liz one day, and we'd have all our tunes playing, and then they'd all be singing the songs as well. So this technology, it's like being a genie, only you can give them infinite wishes. And you say, what song do you like? What song do you like? You name it. You tell me, what do you like? And I say, I'll tell you what. And then they'd come on and I say, do you know what I like? And when we do a long journey, me and my family, I get the phone out and I say to my daughter, right, you be DJ. I want you to pick a tune you like and pick a tune you think I might like. And then we do that. And the journey's fantastic. You go, right, what's next? And you're all excited about the next thing. It turns a journey into, are we nearly there yet? Or, do you know, we're there. And we're having a great time and we've done this tune. And so this has been absolutely, Spotify's been a game changer. And YouTube, where you put things on. One thing with a gentleman, I actually with a lady in the Northeast, she was very agitated. And somebody said, I sat down and I said, right, what do you like? And my daughter said, she loves the music from Westerns. I went, really? The sort of the bit they go bam bam ba dum bam ba da da dum. Anyway, so she was hassled one day, really, really, upset and stuff. And I just put this on, and she suddenly got up and go bam bam ba dum da 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 da. And apparently, she used to conduct a children's orchestra, right? And then used to do, and then she was da, 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 and all this, and suddenly she'd forgotten about how she was feeling, and she got taken somewhere else. Do you know what? No drugs, no side effects, no nout. A button and a tune, and then that'll do for me every time. There's no side effects on here. It's like, As somebody said about iPads, this tablet has no side effects.
And I think that's one thing we don't think about, isn't it? Is actually the reduction of the use of PRM medication to resolve situations. And yeah, I love the idea about the playlist. It's something I didn't really kind of think about before, that actually you could use that so well for people with generations and different parts of their life to actually take them back in a moment in time.
Beautiful. And it really worked. And it gave an empathy, right? And it crossed generations. So as I say, these young ones going, do you know, I love this song. What's this song? They went, oh, this is T-Rex, Get It On. It's a good tune. It's a tune, is this? It's a tune. And like they're 17. Music has no side effects. Get in.
But also, you know, you're saying about kind of using it as like the journey, kind of your own memories. Is also a great way to connect in the here and now. If you have like a family playlist, you know, I know more and more people that are doing this, where kind of different members of the family are collaborators on a playlist, and you can all add in your own songs. So then you kind of still feel like you're together, you know, like, oh God, mum's song's just come on, or, you know, trying to guess, or who's chosen this one? And that kind of, you know, even just having that like a collaborative playlist. And obviously on Spotify now, you can listen at the same time. That's been a massive thing, is where you can, whatever you're listening to, you can then share it with other people. And so you're not physically together, but you're listening to the same thing at the same time. And, you know, that does wonders as well in terms of feeling connected.
See, I'm because I'm a bit older, let's just say, than you two. And see, the thing is, back in the day, you know, you'd do a mixtape for somebody. If you really thought if you thought, well, she's lovely, right? And I'd just say, right, I'm going to record that. There you go. Press play and record. There you go. You can have Careless Whisper. Get in, George Michael, right? And all this sort of thing. And what you'd do is you'd give them a C90 cassette, and you'd say, you put in the thing, and it just says, you know, you put a little message on, and it was like such a personal thing. And now we can just do that digitally. And it's the same thing, only the sound quality's a lot better, and the tapes don't get chewed up in your cassette player. You know, but that was a big deal then. And music is such a beautiful thing now. And it's the fact it's like a time machine. You know, they say time travel hasn't been invented yet. Well, I went to see a gig the other night. I went to watch Beverly Craven, who had a hit called Promise Me. And basically she was playing that live just down the street at York Barbican. And I was back in 1991. I was 21 again. And I was in Bath, funnily enough. And I was right back there. And that's what music can do. And Bob Marley said, when music hits you, you feel no pain. Well, I'm not so sure, Mr. Marley, because there are so many songs that rip your heart out. That's why we have minor and major keys. You know, those minor keys are there to rip your little old heart out. And that's what we get. So, can everybody else read that on the screen?
Yeah, I'll read it for you. So it says, it never fails to beamuse me how 1 year a certain tune from
I think it was
years ago, the exact same emotions that we felt at the time appear. And I think that kind of relates to kind of what you were saying, Ian. Actually, you can go to a gig or a festival, you might not know the songs, but actually just being surrounded by people and the atmosphere and kind of what that brings, it's just another. I love live music, and just we were talking before the show about kind of Glastonbury tickets going on sale next week and bits and pieces. Rosie, so I know that your company, I'm going to get you to introduce it and tell us a bit more. I just wonder if you can talk around kind of some of the resources and bits and pieces that you're offering at the moment for people, and a bit more about your company.
Yeah, thanks. So Musica has really evolved. So been around 13 years, started out when I was at uni, in the final year of my music degree. We started out by delivering music workshops in care homes, so kind of in-house sessions. We grew through that. But actually what I really kind of wanted to hone in on was through the research that I was doing. So kind of all throughout my academic studies, I've been researching music in dementia and kind of just developing it. I realized that, you know, it's fantastic to have the music workshops in-house, but actually alongside that, we need to be supporting care partners to be using music all the time, you know, at different times of the day, the middle of the night, you know, all of this. So alongside running the music workshops, we then started to develop training as well. And that's really where we're focused at now, kind of the current time, is around training. So we've got online training and courses to support care partners. So whether you're working in a care home, you're a family caregiver, you're in a hospital setting, wherever you are caring for individuals with dementia, to then go through this program where you can learn about the science behind, why music is beneficial. It's not just a nice to have, like it's exactly all what we've been talking about today. It really isn't just a nice add-on. It is actually integral to kind of the well-being of people living with dementia. So that we're going into the science behind it, and then looking at, actually the personalized stuff around what is meaningful music, and what does meaningful music look like to the individuals that we're caring for. So we go through kind of a process with that course. But the bit that I love as part of that course is that we also have these kind of conversations where we hop onto a Zoom once a month, and we come together, everyone that's on the course, people that have finished the course a long time ago, and share with each other, what's really worked well, but also what are you finding a challenge? So technology often comes up. So it's that kind of thing where we can come together. And then the knock-on effect of that is that it's not just, I often think of music as a tool for so many other things. So the knock-on effect of having those conversations is that we kind of come together as a group and then support each other in other aspects of care as well. So not just using music as everyday care, but actually other elements that you've got, and you build relationships with other care partners too, which, those relationships continue long after kind of that coaching session is finished. So there's the training. I'm also offering consultancy at the moment, so working with care organisations. I really want to start looking at the community as well. So I've been quite based in care homes and hospitals, but I want to start looking at that community element of care as well, of, supporting individuals in their own homes. Young onset dementia as well is an area that I'd really like to start looking at, is, kind of, especially from a music perspective, like we're saying about, it's so subjective. And obviously dementia isn't just an older person's condition, we know this. And so looking at young onset dementia and seeing actually how can music support in all areas of the condition, I think is really important. So that's a long-winded way of saying what I do. There's multi-facets to it, but at the moment it's kind of, training, consultancy, really supporting the embedding of meaningful music in dementia care.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. And I think it is very much needed. I think that's one thing kind of often in a care home that's kind of not kind of a priority, and it should be a priority, because actually, like you said, it has such a big knock-on impact on everything else that kind of surrounds that person. And you're also kind of supporting different countries, aren't you? Are you able to tell us more about that? The people from kind of overseas, are they connected to one another on events and bits and pieces? How's that working?
Yeah, so this is quite a new thing, to be honest, kind of during COVID. So I'd set up my online courses, but prior to COVID, it hadn't really kind of taken off. I think we were still quite used to the in-house delivery model. And then obviously with COVID happening, it started to kind of to take off. The fact that a lot of us, we're now used to doing online courses, we're used to connecting with different people. And through LinkedIn, actually, I know we're all kind of very active on LinkedIn here. It's a great community. And so through there, I've had different people from Australia and Canada and America, variety of care home staff, but also family caregivers coming and joining my courses, I've got a free course. So there's a lot of overseas people on the free program. I've just started a Facebook group as well. And so, I'm finding that kind of we're starting to connect more in different countries.
And are you finding that any particular country are kind of doing things a lot more advanced than others? Or so Adam and I have made contact with quite a few kind of social care people that kind of do this kind of thing, but in America and Australia and bits and pieces, and actually kind of listening and networking with them, seeing how different social care is, but also how similar things is. And I just wondered kind of your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, things are really moving on in the UK. I think the US it always feels like they've been kind of a bit further in terms, especially around music and music on prescription and that side. But actually, with the advent of music for dementia, there's been kind of big initiatives in the UK for kind of raising the bar and the profile of music in dementia. I think kind of we are kind of catching up with the US. And then it seems like in Australia, there's kind of more conversations, but that's quite new in terms of my conversation in the space, so I don't know too much, but it looks like Ian might have some more information on that. You're nodding.
Well, during lockdown, like, let's be right here, there's technology did move forward 7 years during lockdown, and when people weren't allowed to be together at the first Christmas of Christmas 2020, I was devastated by that, and lots of people got in touch with me. And so, with 3 weeks to go, we did this thing called the Big Christmas Care Sing Along, which is an online event that we've done twice, and I've started planning for this year today. And we linked up with Australia, and we got something that was like televised. So we got telly, involved in Australia, and we then got people watching it in Venezuela and Chile, and you're just thinking, this is crazy. But it's just because of this technology here. This is stuff that wasn't there. We'd never have thought of doing it, broadcasts and stuff like that. And so what it did, it got everybody talking. The words appeared on the screen. You could play it as live. We're doing the same this year. And it's just a wonderful thing where we bring people from all over the world. I've got a guitarist from Texas who's going to be taking part in it this year. I've got choirs from Australia. I've got people from all over the place. I've got people ranging in age from small children to a lady who's 96, because we're bringing all generations together. And seriously, this technology has opened up so many things. This thing wouldn't happen. Today wouldn't happen. There could be people watching from wherever, and they can watch it live. They can watch it live, or they can watch it at another time. And that's a joy of this. And we can share our ideas and copy each other's homework, and we can all look really clever. Everybody, because nobody knows more than everybody. And it's all about, that's the whole idea of these things that you're doing with the Care and View, is that you bring people on, and then everybody shares everything. Say, right, this works for me, this doesn't work for me. So what that does is that saved somebody a load of time. And the one thing we don't have is time. So if someone says, this is a winner, but it's a winner for me, it might not be a winner for you. And so long as you use that sort of caveat, and then say, this is a loser for us, but try it, because it might be a winner for you. And so long as you always think, right, this is what could work, let's try it. And what works for one person might not work for another. Just keep trying, throwing ideas out there. And that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Adam and I always say that actually, if you can support one another, the only people that really benefit are the people that we're supporting at the end of the day, because actually it gives you more time with those people to support, less time kind of in an office behind a computer. Anybody that wants to get involved in with the big sing along this year, how can they go about that? Is there a website? Do they need to
if you just get in touch with me on LinkedIn or Twitter, it's or on my website, email me at bigian.co.uk. How slick was that just appeared there?
Can't take credit for it. So.
Unbelievable. COVID ain't keeping that man down. So, yeah, if you want to get in touch, and what we do is we use video clips from all over the world and we edit them together so they're all very funny. It's sort of like a cross between a lovely Christmas concert mixed with Gogglebox and the Muppet Show in many ways. It's absolute chaos. But it's a lot of fun. We enjoy it. It's also got bits of you being framed, because some of the singing ain't great, I'll tell you. Could get 250 quid for some of that. By the way, there's something that we haven't hit on, and that is, you like festivals. Well, I don't like those muddy things where you're all cramped in against people. I'm a bad design for being hemmed in, me. So we do festivals for older people and their families and the children. And so we do one thing called All Together Now, that we do at Land of Meads, just outside of Nottingham. And I turn up for a couple of weeks before with a guitar, and I say, right, are we going to learn some songs and get the tambourines out, and there's maracas and stuff, and are we going to sing along? And then on the day, I turn up with a house band, and the house band play on the festival stage with all the crowd and everybody singing and everybody dancing and drinking and having a jolly time and eating food and having a great time and getting dressed up. And then we get people making their festival performance debut, sometimes in their 10th decade. And it is beyond words. Now, can I be right? We have a plan, right? I have a plan that looks like a blank piece of paper. And then somebody, like we did it this time, and there's a gentleman there with young onset dementia and Down syndrome, and he just shouts, "Hey, Big Ian, do you do any Elvis?" And I went, I looked around the band and I went, "Hound dog, lads." Guitarist shouts, "In here." I went, "Let's do it." So we did. And then he's up there and he's having a great time. Now, he wanted to get up on stage. He was very shaky on his legs. So what I did was, me and the guitarist and the sax player jumped off stage with radio mics and we brought the gig to him. And he's giving it, he's shaking his leg and he's going, and he's having a great time. And then one of the other ladies, another lady with young onset dementia from the traveling community, and she gets up and she sings a favorite Irish song. And then her husband joins her on stage and they do it as like a duet and they cuddling and embracing. And then at the end, he just gives her the biggest kiss and he just goes, "I love you, girl." And then we had another couple and the gentleman, he has dementia, lives in the care home. His wife doesn't. And he wanted to have a slow dance. So we played Have I Told You Lately. I found out that they liked Van Morrison. We did Have I Told You Lately That I Love You. Our sax player and me went out into the crowd. Now, he's very unsteady on his legs. And she they had a slow dance where it was like two playing cards holding each other up, right? It was a very fragile house of cards. But what happened was all the care staff put like a little circle around them. And they were like playing backstop, saying, "Do you know what? This is just you two. We're not here. But if you need us, we'll just be there to gently just sort of support you or whatever." And can I be right? There were harder blokes than me with tears running down their face during that song. Honestly, the place, guys were absolute drink. Everybody. But it was the most beautiful, beautiful thing. And as I say, I've got that on a video that Adam has, where there's a couple and it's just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And so giving people an opportunity to not listen, but to perform. And very few people get to perform. I get to do it every week and I take it for granted, but I didn't take it for granted for 500 days during lockdown when music was stolen. If we want to know how important music is, that was a pretty quiet time. Birdsong took over from live music. You never went to a gig for 500 days, Mark. 500 days. You don't want to. If I was to tell you now, you're not going to go to another gig in 500, you'd be devastated because it's not an add-on. Music's part of us. It's in it. It's not icing, it's cake. And imagine a day without music, in the car, whatever. You have it there. And it's a beautiful companion. Beautiful companion. And we need to give it the respect it deserves.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, lockdown for me was obviously very different. I was obviously in the cat and there was music the whole time. But yeah, there definitely wasn't any live music. I could have definitely made up for it. As soon as people started putting their tickets on for sale, I was there, making the most of those live events. I believe we've got another video now, Ian. It might be the video you were talking about. So, Adams.
Liz, mother-in-law. This is my friend Graham. Night to remember. This is the very last birthday that Liz had, and we gave her a 6'4" gift. And Graham went round with his guitar to a care home and just did the most beautiful thing, playing her favourite songs. And this is one of the most special things. Anyway. Liz, we were going to wrap Graham Hodge up, right, for your birthday, but he's a bit big, and to be honest, he's an absolute nightmare to wrap. There's not a straight edge to be found anywhere. And look at the size of those blooming hands. Look at the size of them hands. You can't wrap them up. You just fall out my knee, and you know wherever I am, come yes, I will see you again. And to spring, summer, fall, now I understand what you're trying to say to me, how you suffer for your sanity, how you tried to set them free, they were not so, they did not know how. I'm still listen now,
when no hope was left inside on that starry, starry night. You took your life as lovers often do. I could have told you, Vincent, this world was never meant for one as beautiful as you.
That was
Oh,
lovely.
Liz, how good is Graham?
That's lovely.
You like that one?
Yeah, I love it.
That was nice, isn't it?
That was beautiful.
Thanks, Graham.
That was a beautiful video. I must throw back so many memories for you, Ian. But thank you very much for sharing that with us.
Well, Graham actually performed at Liz's funeral. He actually sang that song at a funeral. I don't know how he got through it. I don't know how the rest of the room got through it, right? But he was incredible. He's such a lovely man. And he's one of my team who do Night to Remember. Graham's 74 and he's timeless and ageless and just wonderful.
Yeah.
You know.
Showing age is just a number. So, Ian, I wanted to talk to you recently about the care show. You hosted a stage, which was Music One, Dementia Nil. Just wondered if you could tell us more about kind of what that was, kind of what the speech was, what the reception was like, and bits and pieces.
Well, it went down a treat. It was a lovely session, and we were hitting on things like this. You know, we were hitting on the bits that aren't keeping everyone safe, warm, and well fed, but the bits that feed the soul. And it was, see, sometimes at the care show, what you get is, if anybody turns up with the name CQC on them, the theatres are rammed because people are scared. And so, you know, and then sometimes if you're doing something that's more creative or something that's not about, you know, making money within the sector or something like that, if you're doing something that's actually going to make a genuine difference and not cost much money at all, sometimes people overlook it, almost see it as froth. And as you can see by those videos, it's certainly not froth. It's something that can make the joy of music is it can make a music Monday feel different to a Tuesday, feel different to a Wednesday or a Thursday or a Friday. And so the session we had, it started off, I showed lots of videos of a gentleman playing piano who started off and he went, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. And he'd written himself off. And so my mate turned up and on a big piano stool, he sat on the left-hand side and Dan sat on the right-hand side. And he said, right, you just play and I'll follow you. So him and Dan started playing together and it was like amazing. And there was communication going on that couldn't come with words. So one started doing something and he went, your arpeggios are better than mine. You know, I'm one of York's best piano teachers and your arpeggios at 91 are better than mine. And he was going, oh, that is, and he just stopped in the middle of the game and went, that is tasty. That is a tasty. Just play that again. And it was like water flowing over rocks, and it was just autopilot, and it's stuff that's in there. And that's what music does. It's when you get to play with, and I get to play with some fantastic musicians. They can all be playing the same guitar through the same amplifier. They can all play the same saxophone. They can all play the same piano. But you can tell who's playing it. Because it's got nothing to do with wood and wire or pickups or, you know, or whether it's a Strat, a Telly or a Les Paul. It's to do with the person, the fingers, the person, the way that, you know, and you can tell it's there and you can't hide it. You know, my mate Kempy, who plays with us, he's played the most expensive saxophone in the shop and he's played the cheapest one. He says, I just sound like me. Now he thinks that's a bad thing. We think that's amazing because sounding like him is amazing. Right, and he's so good, and that's what it is. So we explored different things, and we looked at Night to Remember, where we put this event on with all the different generations, and at one point we have 10 generations, 10 decades on the stage, and we get them all singing. It sounds incredible. It makes loads of money, and they have a nice time. And then at the end, I just went, right, it's not a spectator sport, it's music. I said, right. So I got a bag out. I had a load of tambourines, a load of maracas, a load of shakers, a load of this, that, and the other. I said, right, come on then. And I said, come on then. And I kicked in with I'm Still Standing. I got everybody up who could be up. We got everybody to gather round, and we all sang and we all danced. And I was the person leading it, but I just became like, where's Wally without glasses? And it was kind of like I was in amongst this sea of people trying to, you could see me above them just because I'm tall, but everyone's just singing away. And it was crazy. And all people were coming in from outside going, what's going on in there? They came in, they thought, wow, that looks fun. I want to be part of that. I want to be part of that. And that's what happens with things like carnivals. And why can't we have that sort of thing just happening anywhere? We can have that happening in a garden. Like I've done a carol concert where I took a keyboard player, and there was a lady called Jean, and she was very poorly, and she loved Christmas carols. So we went down and did this carol concert downstairs, and then basically I said, "Where's Jean?" I went, "Oh, she's badly in. She's really badly." And I went, "Where is she?" She says, "Up in her room." Took a keyboard, right? Sat on the end of a bed. I sat on the side of the bed. She's there. I said, "Right, Jane, me and you pick the song. We're having our very own Christmas concert." And she was frail, and she had this, COPD and all manner of stuff. And she's croaking away through White Christmas and Away in a Manger and all this sort of stuff. And she adored it. And so did we. We played to an audience of one, and it felt amazing. And I think that's what music should do. I think music plays to many, many audiences of one. And I think that's the magic of it. That's what, when Wogan left his show, he said, thank you for being my friend and all this, because it's a personal thing. That radio thing's a personal thing. And I think music's a personal thing. But it was quite funny the other night. Beverly Craven said, "This is a song, Promise Me." And everyone comes up to me and says, "Oh, that's our song." And she goes, "No, I think you'll find it's mine." She went, "And I've got the house that it paid for to prove it." So yeah. But it's true. Somebody writes a song, but then it becomes yours. And that's a really strange thing. It's a gift that you can give to loads of people, and it doesn't cost any money.
Yeah. I mean, firstly, I can't comment on CQC stages, conferences, and why people turn out to watch the CQC when they're just talking about the same old spiel. But I've joined one of yours, and I've joined Jonathan Cunningham's, and it's just that feel-good factor, isn't it? And just getting involved and not being afraid to kind of forget where you are, who's around you, Well,
he's a good lad. He's a good lad, is Jonathan. He's one of my real good friends. A lovely, lovely bloke. Hard to go, but I tell you what, he cannot sing though. God.
Well, no, nice, so I can't make any comment on that. But you just leave. You leave after that kind of 30, 40, 45 minutes just feeling good and empowered and kind of going about your day. And you've touched on something which was something I wanted to speak to you both about, was around that we've spoken about guitars and saxophones and things, but actually you spoke about kind of like simple instruments like tambourines and shakers and things, and actually how beneficial and overlooked quite often they are in the care sector for the people that we're supporting, and actually how much of a difference they can make. Actually just somebody, it's not just, you've got the music, but you've also got the movement and kind of the exercise, the gentle exercise that kind of go with that. Rosie, did you touch on any of that when you were kind of doing your studies and bits and pieces?
Yeah, so a lot of my studies were in hospitals, and so using instruments is like it feels like a big no at the moment in hospitals, even prior to COVID, because of infection control, which is always difficult. But obviously working in the care homes and kind of the practical experience I've had there is, using instruments. I think being mindful of the type of instruments we use, not just using like crappy, like I'm just going to say like kind of plasticky maracas, like actually thinking about, having some really good sounding instruments as well, and good looking as well. Kind of the aesthetics are important, because I think sometimes for some of us it can take us back to that kind of school feeling, and if you've got some broken instruments or whatever, they're not going to make people kind of feel like they want to engage. So being mindful of the instruments that we're using, but also thinking about how we can connect through kind of while we're singing or while we're using different activities, scarves are, you know, they're not a musical instrument, but using scarves while you're singing together or something, and having that as that kind of tactile way of kind of staying connected. I found that's been really nice, using like balloons and balls. I know I'm going off kind of the instrument side, but actually looking at how we can bring movement into that musical space, as well as obviously having the instruments that we use. And you know, even without playing the instruments, talking about the instruments as well, and looking at them, and, you know, thinking about where the instruments have come from, you know, different instruments around the world. It's that in itself, before you even start playing music, that in itself can become an amazing conversation pointer.
Yeah,
Rosie,
absolutely.
the thing you said about good quality instruments, right? I buy the good quality tambourines, okay, right? The really good ones that you would use for a gig, right?
Yeah.
Do you know how many of those I've lost? They just go. And if you've got somebody, right, who's over the moon, right, and has got learning disabilities, and he's just absolutely having the best day of their life, am I taking that tambourine off them? Do you know what? I'm not. I just write it off and say, do you know what? It was nice. I'll get another. And that's what happened. But if you think about it, Mark, you mentioned about your love of Glastonbury. Imagine Glastonbury if everybody was sat cross-legged with their arms folded, listening intently. Can you imagine? You wouldn't go twice. You'd say, shh, shh, shh. They're singing. Shh. I love this one. Shh. It wouldn't happen. You know, Dave Grohl's singing. I love this one. It's Pretender. It's my favorite, right? It wouldn't happen. So it's the fact that you suddenly leave your sensible you with all responsibility, go there, bounce up and down, right? You know, and you're singing along and having a great time, and you're part of a sea of people. You're part of a community, and it's a beautiful, exciting thing. So, you know, that's what it's about. And whether it's with instruments, or whether it's clapping your hands, or whether it's banging each other, I do a thing with a lot of people where I'll get people and I clap their hands. You know, people with I would clap their hands, or we'll hit things together. And it's a connection, and it works really well. Come on. And so if you've got somebody who's in a wheelchair, who's really, you know, got very complex needs, but you think, I want you part of this. I want you part of the band. Come on, me and you. Come on. And you get the movement, and you feel it, and you go, we're winning here. Little victory here. Little victory. And it's different things with different people. And the same thing that you do with, there was a lad at a place called Happy Futures in Scarborough. Do you know Angela Fletcher, Mark? Have you met Angela?
Yeah, I've heard of Happy Futures. I've seen them.
Oh,
I think
honestly, she's got a fantastic setup there. And so me and my 9-piece band, Huge, played a gig to 25 people there. We took all full production, all lights, all PA, everything, to 25 people. And there were some of the guys there who went, I'd like to sing Never Gonna Give You Up, Rick Astley, with full band. I went, right, we're doing it. So he has autism, as Ian, and he loves this. He can sing, he sings, he dances, he loves it. And I said, right, me and you, we'll do it. And we just did it between us. Honestly, it was magical, because that's what it is. You're giving people something that they think they maybe shouldn't be able to have. Well, why not? Yeah. Let's give it. We all deserve the best. We all deserve opportunities, and that's what we're trying to do. So, I think all of us, in doing this tonight, are trying to remove low ceilings of expectation and open up loads of opportunity, and say, do you know what? Why you? Why not you?
Yeah.
Right? Sing along, play along. I've done things with, I don't know whether you've done this, Rosie. This is great. You get a guitar and you put it on somebody and you say, right, I want you to strum it. And then what I do is I'll do the chords with my left hand and they do the rhythm with the right. And the fact that they're playing it and I'm changing the chords, wow, it's like magic. And it's beautiful. Nothing better.
I just wanted to quickly touch on the point where you said it's, different things for different people. And it is just that, and being mindful of, some people will love the active participation and engagement, whereas other people will really like the kind of musical appreciation and, sitting and maybe listening to an album, because actually that's what they really enjoy doing. So I think kind of as care partners, it's for us to kind of figure out, actually what is beneficial and what do you feel like in the moment? We don't always, even if sometimes we kind of love going to gigs, you don't want to do that every single day. So it's and some people do want to do that every day. So it is that kind of finding out exactly what you said, Ian. It's about the, what works for that individual. Is some things work for some people and some things, other things work better for other people.
And people love being spectators. If they didn't, Glastonbury would be pretty quiet. I've noticed there's not that many people on the stages. There seem to be more that are watching it. So clearly the spectator thing's quite popular.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think talking about kind of what what one person wants and one doesn't, I was having a conversation this week with somebody regarding Frozen the musical. So I took my kids and I kind of thought this would be great. You can kind of sing along and have a good time and kids will be singing. And we got there and first thing it was like, nobody is to sing. You're not allowed to sing. You'll be told to be quiet. You'll be asked to leave if you continue. And actually, there's a real divide between kind of the families that I went with, because I was like, oh, well, that's kind of just ruined it for me, because I was kind of like looking forward to just belting out a number at the end and bits and pieces. But actually, for some of the people that I was with, they were like, actually, no, that's what the theatre is all about. It's just sitting and listening and enjoying the show. So actually, exactly what we've just touched on, actually, there's such a difference of opinion. And actually, everybody's right. It's just their opinion. I'm very conscious that we've gone over the hour. And I just want to kind of do a round robin to close the show. I was going to do top 3, but because of time, I'm going to do the top 1 tip to involve music for people living with dementia, not necessarily in a care home, just in general, whether that's supported living, somebody living in their own home with their family. But yeah, just a top tip. I'll come to you first, Rosie, for yours.
Cool. So I think for me, that's good. I think for me is looking at that collaborativeness. How can you bring in other people into that space? So getting involved in the conversations around creating playlists, adding in your own music, and really kind of seeing how you as a care partner can empower the individual living with dementia. So it is a collaborative process, embedding music. So yeah, that's probably like 3 or 4 tips in one, but focusing on collaboration, bringing in other people into that journey.
Thank you very much, Ian.
I would make it integral to everything. I would have music, say, in a land where we've had masks and tasks, right? I think we need to bring music into everything, whether we're making toast, having a cup of tea, whether we're making a bed, right? Let's make it all like a Disney musical. Let's sing along with everything. Let's burst into song. And you know what? It don't matter. It don't matter. Let's all be daft. If we're all ridiculous, then nobody is ridiculous. Yeah. And if we all drop our guard and we all sing along and we all dance along, the world is not a word. The world's a better place if you're singing and dancing. And, it means people are relaxed and you've given people attention. If you're dancing with somebody, you're holding their hands. That means they've got all of you. Nobody else has you. If you're singing along together, a song together, and you are focusing on one another and, trying to sing another, or you might even harmonize or do backing vocals, they've got 100% of you. How often do you get 100% of somebody?
Yeah, no, 100. Yeah, I was going to say 100%, and I think that kind of comes on to kind of what my top tip was going to be, and it probably is more around care homes and kind of care staff, is actually just not being so self-conscious. I think quite often, kind of managing services, you're kind of putting in that kind of support for somebody, but actually the staff, especially the younger generation, are very self-conscious of getting up and dancing or getting up and singing, and actually we're there for the person and actually put that aside. And like you just said, Ian, actually, if everybody was singing along and everybody was dancing along and, that was just part of the normal day today with people, actually, that would get rid of it straight away. But yeah, actually just put yourself aside and live in the moment. Yeah. I just want to say thank you very much for both of you coming and joining us. It's been a great, and I feel like I said before we started to Rosie that it will feel like we've just touched the surface, and I feel like we've just done that. And yeah, it'd be great to kind of have you back and talk about kind of your research in more detail, Rosie. And Ian, please do let us know the details, and we'll make sure that we share them on the Caring for You website and get them out on our socials for people to get involved.
Fabulous.
Thank you very
Fabulous. By the way, Adam, you're very good at this techie side because that's been as smooth as silk.
He's in the background somewhere. But thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you very much.
you.
That was lovely. Lovely to meet you, Rosie, finally.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you. And all the best, Mark. Thank you.
Andrew, thank you very much. See you later.